Can anyone hear us? Farsier is pö. Let's see. Maybe they're trolling us. No one is saying anything.
It was funny to see you react immediately
Ah,
to
yeah.
it was funny in there because I'm used to that 3-minute delay when I'm chatting with people.
Yeah,
Awesome,
I usually keep
sharing.
like a little bit over 2 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have it at 3
Since
minutes. I just didn't want anyone to be able to take advantage of us, you know?
yeah, but usually if you, of course, you can tell if people are doing that. And if you have like under, let's say, 50 viewers, it's not really likely unless you play like
Yeah.
some tournament where there's few guys. They might.
Yeah, I
But if
also
you,
thought on Ignition where I was playing because what I'm doing every Sunday is playing the $162 buy-in, 150K on Ignition, and you play with a number as opposed to a name there. It's just anonymous, you know. So that's another reason I kind of thought it would be even less likely that someone's gonna find my stream and then find me on that table as an anonymous player and do anything about it. So it shouldn't be
yeah.
too much of an issue, like you said.
So PXI is our levels. Do I need to put my sound up or down, or Grayson sound up or down, or are they in good level? Because I can't really listen to the stream myself now. Well, no one is saying anything to us. Everyone's
Looks like
quiet.
I said it
Yeah,
can
I
give me
just
a
hope.
chance to
Yeah, I just hope that my sound is not like really loud and your. Okay, mine is a little bit. So I'll put your sound a little bit higher.
Okay, cool.
Okay, 1 second.
Okay, it's good to know. I can speak louder if need be too. Thanks, Rust.
Okay, what about now? Say something.
Hello, hello. Testing.
So is it now better? Okay. Yeah, let's wait until someone says it's okay and then let's go. Okay, let's go.
Sounds good.
Okay, so I just got some random hands. I think there's 12, and if we can go through these too fast, we can just get some filter I have here before I made before.
Cool. Sounds good.
Or is there something you wanna say to people before we go?
No, I mean, I'm just, it's exciting. I mean, good luck to all of you guys this weekend. This should be fun to go through hands. Just so you guys know, PD was one of my first students a few years ago. And it's actually cool because we did lessons for about a year and talked almost every week, yet we have never seen each other until today. So that's, it's kind of cool. It's like meeting someone that, you've talked to and known for a while. So yeah, kind of cool, but happy to be here. And yeah, looking forward to it. It should be fun.
Yeah, I think it was 2016 or.
Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
think you
kind of
were
like
my
when I met.
second coach.
Nice. Yeah. Well, now you make me feel worse. Jeez. And it's funny because it's like going out to Vegas with a lot of my buddies that I met online, and then finally meeting them in person at the World Series and stuff too. So it's just always really cool to make these friendships and relationships online, and then actually meet people. So hopefully you'll get out to Vegas, or I'll get out to Finland one day, and we'll get to meet up in person.
Yeah, we're going to Vegas. Hopefully next year.
That's what I like to hear. Once
Pexa also
COVID
is in
is
the
gone.
chat. Yeah. Well, that's quite
Awesome.
annoying. The I could hear the. Maybe I'll just take off the. 1 second. Yes. Okay. Now everything should be okay. And thank you for Mili TV for the subscription. Yeah. So I think now the subscription sound should be off. Let's hope so. No one do any subscription. No, thank you. Don't do any.
Good for you.
But that's a follow. 1 second. I'll check one more time that the. Everything is okay. Okay, so yeah, I took few like 12 hands or something, so we can go through these.
Love
Let's
it.
see. So this one we defend. He's C bets.
And are these just various tournaments, or are they all from one particular tournament?
The answer that varies. No, not like one tournament. It's just some mark hands.
Okay, right on, cool. All right, so what are your thoughts here right off the bat? I mean, to me, it's two choices. It's either just folding and moving on, or you go for a check raise semi bluff. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, either way for me also. I went here for the check raise. The only issue with the is the bet size a little bit because he puts the
Yeah.
half, but usually they
Yeah,
put like two big blinds. So
I couldn't agree more with what you just said. And I think that's a huge key here. Like, the people that your check raise semi bluffs are probably going to be most effective against are the ones who are kind of just like auto C betting, like not even thinking about it, just like throwing out a C bet. And the most auto C bet number I can think of here is like 1/3, like you said. So, like, I would be so much more comfortable with the check raise here if he made it 2 blinds as opposed to 3. It's obviously cheaper for us. And then, like you said, I think he continues less as well, more of an auto, just C-bet fold. But I think you're still fine doing it here. What we're really looking for is the gap between this guy's C-bet range and the range that'll continue against you. And he's probably going to be opening really wide on the button, and he's going to be C-betting, I mean, almost always on the flop, right? So I dig
yeah,
it. A lot of really good turns for us. Obviously, a 4-7 club, like a lot of good turns for us. So I think it's reasonable. And even if we get called, we can put pressure on him on certain turns. So I dig it. It's this or a fold. Just don't call in this spot.
yeah.
Oh, hello.
So this one I think that we have a few options. One is the check raise again, or just start to. Because I don't really like check calling it. Or
Yeah, so I'd say the worst thing you could do here in my eyes would be betting like 8 to 12 blinds, I think, because what would end up happening is you'd be giving off the illusion that there's fold equity, which would almost be begging him to jam on you, and then you would just be in a horrible spot if he jams. Like, well, I guess you just have to side call. Like, I don't like anything there. So we certainly don't want to be in that spot. So I would not bet 10 blinds. I think what you said is reasonable. I think check shoving has some merit, but at the same time, you need to be really certain he's going to bet here to pull that off, right? And I'm not entirely convinced that after you check raise flop, that he's just going to fire often on the turn when you check here. So I think
so
check
yeah.
raising is a little risky in my eyes, to be honest.
Because for
I
me,
would
I think I bet like half pot or something. Like you said that you wouldn't do that, but because yeah, because one thing I don't like you said, the check raising, because he might check back,
Yep.
and then again, I don't know what the bet size to use. Because
Yeah.
if we go the pot, that sounds like his that seems like a draw, but of course he might have a draw. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't
I think
know.
that's a lot of what he has, though. I think he might just be kind of like he might have floated you on the flop even with something like, just like an ace high, like an ace queen, ace jack type thing with like the naked ace of hearts. Like I think there's some wider hands he could have gotten at this point with sixes, sevens. Well, not likely sixes, but sevens, eights could definitely be out there too. Honestly, I would probably just jam here. Like, my thinking is that, like I said, I don't like betting and giving him the room to do something because if you bet 10 blinds here, what was your plan if he jams?
Yeah, then I would probably have to call.
Yeah, I prefer the side call versus the fold, but I think the issue is more that we don't love either one, right? So if we don't love anything that comes after
Yeah,
we bet 10 blinds, then what's the point of betting 10 blinds?
let's see what we
And
did.
if you bet 10 blinds here, isn't best case scenario him just folding? So, like, what do you think's more likely to make him fold? A jam or betting half pot, right? I'm with you that the optics on the jam, it might look a little bit kind of like a flush. I get it, like a flush draw, but he doesn't have a lot of strong hands here, right?
Yeah,
I think this sizing is reasonable. I don't think this, like, I like this way more than 10 blinds because I think this will not elicit a lot of bluff shoves from him, right? Like I think you look pretty damn strong with this bet, so I'm cool with this
Yeah.
bet. I think it's fine actually. Like it gives off most of the vibe of what we're wanting. There is still that sliver of fold equity, and it would just really suck if he jammed with like, say he did have ace queen off, like he had the ace of hearts on the flop, he was calling for a heart, and then he just like didn't believe you here and he jammed as a semi bluff with ace queen. Like that would suck for us, because he'd be a favorite with a bluff.
Yeah.
But yeah, this sizing is much better than half pot. I think the idea is, what do you want to accomplish here? The problem with this too is that you set yourself up for, like, you can't really bluff river now because now you only have 20 blinds left, right?
Yeah.
So you can't really.
But of course, we bluff this one, but
yeah,
because I'm thinking it. Yeah, maybe
if you
because
bluff here, what do you make fold though is the problem. Like I don't even think he's going to fold sevens or eights after all this now, right? Just because you only have 20 blinds left.
yeah,
These are all reasons why I think the turn is a jam, though. It's like when you get into these spots where you're just kind of between a rock and a hard place, like neither option feels great. Well, it typically means we made a mistake at the prior decision juncture, and I think that's exactly what this is. Like, this is just no good option here, right? Like, we don't want to give up with so much money invested, but we also don't want to bluff with so little fold equity, right? So I think it just means we made a mistake getting into this spot in the first place.
yeah. Because I was thinking that he doesn't have the 9, or probably not the flush, because I would think the 9 would go all in on the turn.
Yeah, so I completely agree with you about the 9, but the problem is that he doesn't need that to call. He could call you with a lot less here. Like I said, 7s and 8s is what really sticks out to me, I think, because I assumed 10s plus he would have just put it in on the flop. So I think like the 4s, 6s, 7s, 8s, like those all make a lot of sense. He might have something like ace 5 suited also. And to be honest, if he had ace 5 of diamonds, I bet you he calls here.
And I think he had the flush draw.
Jack 10 of hearts or something.
Yeah. I think we could have kept him to fold, we show on the turn. He probably folds there.
Yeah, there you go. And like you mentioned it when we were talking about it too, that he does have a lot of draws in that turn too. So like, yeah, we look kind of draw heavy, but he has so many draws himself that would have to fold. And he's just really capped. Like, it's just really hard for him to have in the pocket 8s there, unless he was trapping us,
Yeah, the stats are really weird on this one.
Yes,
I'm
and
sure
I think that's
the flop would, yeah.
No, I was gonna say that's something important people have to think about too. I think people don't look at stack sizes enough and plan for the later street. Like always have, like, I think you planned appropriately on the flop with your check raise, being like, hey, there's a lot of turn cards I can barrel, but you might not have thought about stack sizes. Because this was the best turn card for us, yet it was still a difficult turn spot for us. And it's not because of the cards or you made a good flop play. It's because of our stack size. That's all,
Yeah.
Like if you had like 5, 10, if you had 10 blinds less, this would be a super easy jam for you, right? So the flop check raise is even better. If you had 10 blinds more, it would be a good triple barrel spot.
Yeah. Severus Jane. Great stuff. How often you're streaming this coaching? This is basically my first one. Next week will be the Jordan Drummond from the BBC. We'll do the same thing, 6 p.m. So
appreciate it, Severus.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, definitely. And then check out my stream as well. I do these occasionally with my students as well. I did one a few weeks ago. So definitely check it out, and it should be updated on the schedule anytime something's coming up. Appreciate the kind words though. That was a cool hand.
Let's see. It's a 3-way.
Yeah, call looks good here. No reason to 3-bet pre when he's just gonna always call. You just look so full of it. If you 3-bet there, it's just not really gonna accomplish much. So definitely like the call. Yeah, flop bet looks good too. Once they check to you here, you just gotta bet. I think we're gonna bet often, especially with a flush draw. I will say, just as like a kind of like a general population thing, something interesting I noticed. It's interesting to me how often I'm doing lessons with students, and I will see them raise. This isn't related to this hand. This is just kind of a side tangent. I will see students raise with like some suited cards that I might not have even played, right? And then the flop will come out 2 of their suit, and they don't even bet, you know? And I'm like, well, this is weird. Like, you know, like, so like, I think it's really important that like when you have your flush draws, in general, we're going to be wanting to play them aggressively. You're going to win a lot of pots when people just fold right off the bat. And I think when we go into the check call mode, you also kind of find yourself even in weird spots later when you actually do hit. So just in general, I'd say be aggressive with your draws when you can. Obviously, you know, stack sizes and position will dictate stuff. But yeah, in general, I like to be more aggressive with my draws, especially the lower end of my draws too.
Yeah. Okay.
I doubt you're a whale, Peaks.
Big size.
Yeah, so this one's interesting. So there's a couple things going on here. So I would probably lean towards checking back in this spot. If you do bet here, my thinking would be this: like, A, what are you repping? B, what are you trying to make fold? Like, those are the two most important things when you're doing any type of bluff, semi bluff, pure bluff, whatever. A, what are you repping? B, what are you making fold? So if you were to barrel again here, are we just trying to make like ace X fold? You know, like what are we trying to fold out with another bet here? Also, what are we repping, right? Like we don't ever have a four here because we called pre-flop. So it's like we're repping an ace, right? So that's
Yeah.
fine. And if you want to rep something like ace 10, ace jack, ace queen, that's a story we can have. But like make sure your opponent is one who can actually fold an ace, right? Like, you know, like if you're trying to make him fold ace three or something and you're going to triple barrel, right? Just size up your opponent and be like, is this the type of person who's actually going to fold when I tell
Yeah, I
this
think he's over here. He's
story?
quite ace heavy since I don't think he has the four either, or he might have like a pair, like sixes, seven. But we
Yeah, and
got
when you
those
have the
middle
flush
pair.
draw, it's likely that he's more skewed to an ace when he calls, right? Because when you bet
Yeah,
that flop and he calls, he's got an ace, he's got a four, unlikely, like you said, or he's got clubs, and you have a bunch of clubs too. Yeah, Fisk might
yeah,
be right. He could definitely have some fives through eights here.
Oh,
Obviously, we're blocking
good
the
for
sevens and
you.
eights, so it's less likely. But there is a chance too, for what it's worth, that he might just fold those on the flop. You know, just kind of being out of position, not loving the chance, figuring you might have an ace a lot. But yeah, he absolutely could have those hands for sure. Do we want those hands to fold when we bet the flop? You know, I don't know. That's it. What do you think, PD? Do we? Because if we want those hands to fold, maybe we could even size it up a little bit bigger here.
yeah. But I don't remember, but I think I didn't bet this one, so I don't think this one is. We should need to bet this one
And for what
because
it's
he's not
worth,
folding any ace anyway. Unless you
yes,
want to try to make the pot bigger, that's one.
yes. I love what you just said because that's what I was just gonna say. I'll think of this spot on the flip side. Let's just pretend we have ace king for a second, right? Like if I had ace king in this spot, well, sorry, not ace king because we never would have flatted ace king there, but let's say maybe like ace 10, right?
Yeah,
So like if we had ace 10 here, I'd actually be sizing up bigger in these spots because I'd be trying to A, charge his flush draws more, and then B, I'm just trying to get more money from his ace 3, ace 2, ace 5, ace 6, ace 7, ace 8, ace 9, all of which I know are not going to fold to me on that flop. So I'm probably going to size my ace 10 and ace jack actually kind of big there, you know? So I don't know. I think it'd be a reasonable spot to go bigger with some of your draws for the same reason, but those we're actually trying to elicit folds with, whereas the ace 10, ace jack, we're just trying to get calls from, and we're not going to elicit the folds on the flop from those guys. But once the pot's bigger, now you actually have the ability to barrel and bluff later if you want and make him fold that ace X. But to be honest, in general, I think trying to make people fold an ace at any stake under $50 buy-in online is kind of like a dubious task. Like I really think in general, trying to make people fold a pair of aces is not going to happen a lot. People don't want to fold aces, you know?
yeah. Let's see what we did. Yeah, we checked.
Yeah, I like this check back by you a lot. I think if the flop was 9-4-4 two clubs and the turn was the ace, then we'd barrel for sure. But I like the check there. Hello.
Now that I think of this,
Whoo!
yeah,
Okay, so now we need to go back to the beginning. So now we got to really think about this. So when he calls your flop bet, I mean, I'm kind of inclined just to fold here. Like nowadays, I feel like this is just someone that has ace 4 or has like king jack of clubs and is just going for like max value against us, right? Like, let's think about it like this. So, what is the worst hand he would bet for value here, you think?
Well, I don't, because I don't even think that he would bet only like a. Well, he doesn't have that like 5-4. He might have, but I don't think he would bet that big.
Agreed. Yeah. I think it's like a flush or a boat, right?
Yeah,
And so if it's a flush, it's going to be better than ours. So basically, I don't think we beat anything in his value range, right? Yeah, see, Sissy, I think if he has ace queen, I think it's going to be more like what Petey was saying, and that ace queen would probably bet less, like maybe like
yeah,
12 to 15 blinds. Same thing with 4-5 and like, just trips and whatnot. This to me screams bluff or nuts, essentially. And we don't beat any of his value range, so that means we need him to be bluffing, right? So my next question for you, Petey, would be this. What bluffs can he have? And to me, I can't think of any bluffs because of one thing. And this is why it's so good you bet the flop, because like that piece of information to me is huge. Like, what does he call your flop bet with that now suddenly bluffs this river?
yeah. There's nothing.
It would have to be like
Maybe
Fisk
two,
said
three
earlier.
clubs.
Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. It could be like a 3-5 suit, like a diamonds, 2-3 of diamonds, or like Fisk mentioned earlier, maybe fives through eights. But then they'd have to be again turning themselves into a bluff, which is like a really high level move that you guys just aren't going to run into a ton at lower stakes. So yeah, this is interesting. Like in these spots, if they overbet and there's an obvious draw that misses, I sometimes do station off. But there was no draw on the flop that missed. The draw got there.
Yeah.
Yeah, what
Yeah.
Fisk is saying, yeah, if he had like king queen with the king of clubs, but yes, that would be it would be the same thing, a pretty ballsy bluff here. Oh, I'm excited. We get to see what he had. What
Ace
is
four.
it? Ace four, exactly.
But let
Yeah,
me
that
tell
makes
you,
sense.
the viewers, don't call ace 4 here on the small blind. That's not a good play. I, I would
Yeah,
say,
it's a bad.
since it's
I agree.
three-way.
But we could have
You
easily,
can squeeze maybe.
he could have had the two combos of the ace four of hearts
Yeah, so
and
suited you can, yeah, call.
yeah, for sure, yeah. But I'm with you. Yeah, I do not like his ace four off call. That is something important for everyone to remember, though. Like I think people mess this up a lot too, where like good players, one of the biggest mistakes that good players tend to make is applying their own logic and reason to that of their opponents. And like everyone here in this chat knows that ace four is not a good call there from the small blind preflop, right? But just because we know that doesn't mean that player four knows that, right? So like you can't rule stuff out like that for your opponent just because you know it's an incorrect play. People play like shit sometimes, so you have to adjust to it and expect it. So yeah, that's a cool spot too. If you had, and for what it's worth, Pete, if you had Jack 10 of clubs, I think that's where I start calling off because now it's just boat or bluff.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this one is just a shorthand because I folded this one, but I think we need to call here now because I was going through the hands, and this one is, I think, is quite obvious. You have to call.
Yeah, so let me ask you this. Let's say we do call here, just to kind of game it out. Like, so say we call here and the turn is the 5 of clubs. What do you do? Because to me, that's one of the
probably
best
check still,
cards.
but I'm not sure if we could don't bet at all. What's it called?
Yeah, but that's
Don't
the
bet.
thing. Yeah. Like, do we just check call? Do we check shove? Like, I'm not sure. Like, I mean, there are probably routes to make it work, but I'm just thinking in my head, even when we pick up one of the best turn cards, which would be a small club, I'm not sure exactly how to play it. So that to me I think it is a reasonable fold because I'm not sure what I would do even if I turned well here. But maybe there are some okay responses, like maybe if we do hit a low club, maybe like a donk would make sense, or maybe a check shove would make sense. I'm not entirely sure, but I do think it would be somewhat difficult, and so I don't think it's unreasonable to fold here just because there's so much uncertainty even when we turn well, right? That's not counting the 70% of the time it's just like a bad turn and we check fold.
Yeah, but I think this is the BBC always talk that this is a math problem.
Yeah.
We can't fold these small bets since, of course, we have the gut shot here. We have the backdoor flush
Yeah.
draw. Sometimes we have the best hand. Sometimes the ace is good. And of course, if we call here, I don't think he would start bluffing that much.
Yeah, and I also think stack size matters in these spots a lot too. Like, I think I like your call even more in a spot where he has more chips, because my thinking is that the more chips he has here, the wider his opening range is, and then also the wider his c-betting range is, right? So that means then our call is obviously better when he just has, he could have like 9-7 of spades here, right? I think I rule out a lot of those the shorter he gets. So yeah, I'm definitely more inclined to speculate when their stack and their range get a little bit bigger in this spot, wider, excuse me.
Yeah.
I can dig it.
But yeah, I folded this one. I think there's a few of that.
And yeah, I agree with Fisk. You know, he said it's looking for a check back on the flop on the turn. Yes, I definitely agree with that. And then we would be, you know, betting obviously all rivers that we have nothing at that point. You know, I like that, and I do think that works enough. You know, that's a good spot to be consulting your HUD, right? See how often the guy c-bets and then checks back turn, right? That might be a great spot to exploit someone who's just c-betting with impunity, but checking back almost like all of their turns afterwards. So yeah, I dig it, Fisk.
Yeah. So this one, I guess we just call here.
Yeah, calling here's fine. Also, for what it's worth, though, you know, something I've been toying with a lot in the last year is like kind of these like hyper overjam type things where it's like you're reshoving like 25 through 30 big blinds in certain spots. And I don't necessarily think I would have done it here. I think I do lean call, but something you should just kind of keep an eye out for are these spots where like there are situations like that I have been toying with rejamming queen jack specifically because I know I'm making my opponent fold like things like ace nine, 5-5, king queen, king jack suited, right? So like there are some spots to make some interesting overshoves up to 30 big blinds with hands. And I think the thing I'd keep my eyes open for if I was you guys is thinking of your rejam range kind of like through the lens of what your opponent's calling you with. I feel like we all get into this habit of just like, all right, this is the chart, this is my rejam range, and I'm just going to do that, right? But in actuality, you should be looking at like, all right, how often is this guy opening? How often is he calling my shove? How big is the gap between those two things, right? What are the hands he's calling your shove with? Are you making him fold some hands that are actually dominating you, like a king queen in a spot like this, you know? Are you making hands fold that are flipping you? Just kind of like run through those things before you start making reshoves. And I think you'll find some creative situations to make bigger jams pre-flop against people who are just opening way too much, you know, and they're just not adjusting appropriately with their calling ranges. And it also will help you avoid some of these like really difficult spots with 20 through 30 big blinds post-flop that people tend to run into. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I like to sometimes like a 4-bet use the queen 10, queen jack suited kind of hand if I open like a button and someone 3-bets and I have like 30 to 40 big blinds, then I like to 4-bet those kind of hands also.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'd say that stuff comes down to stack size for me, you know, because it's like stack size and like what you expect of your opponent. I think a lot of times people take these lines that are just so obviously not value laden, and that's where we kind of have to take advantage of them, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, just food for thought. I like the call here, but like I'm saying, I don't think it would be an awful shove. And I do think that rejamming 30 blinds with queen jack in certain spots makes sense. But the first thing I'd ask myself is like, is he folding king queen? And if he is, then I'm suddenly interested, you know? Yeah. Like picture this, you jam with queen jack, he folds king queen, but he calls with eights, nines, tens, all of which you're flipping. Ace king, you're not even that far behind. So it's kind of interesting actually when you think about it, you know? But again, a lot of emphasis on how shitty these spots become 20 through 30 big blinds post flop, you know, and how we can straight up just avoid a lot of those spots by making more aggressive jams pre-flop.
Yeah. So this one is also like it's not really what we have here. I was thinking because this one we fold, but what kind of stuff we need to call here?
Yeah,
let's say like, we have spades here, queen, jack, spade. Yeah. If we had, we would have to call, right?
Yeah, you nailed it. Or the queen of clubs would have been enough too, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not just, it's all about that turn. And again, remember, what do we expect? Well, I'll tell you what I expect. I think this guy is betting here every time. Just every time, right? And I actually think this board favors us a little bit more than him, right? So I think it is a good board to float, but you want redraws, like you said, like Queen Jack of Spades would be great. Queen Jack with the one club would be fine. And we're basically just looking for 8, 10, Jack, Queen, King, or a club or a spade, stuff like that, right? And you'd
Yeah.
be able to take control on all those turns. And he'd also probably just check fold a lot too, kind of like we were talking about earlier too, with I think Fisk mentioned, like where they just kind of give up and then you get to bet and you win. So yeah, I think those would be the spots I'd float here.
Okay.
But I like where your head's at with the fold there, definitely. Yeah, so I love that you put this spot in here. So I probably have a different approach to this spot, I imagine, than GTO and solvers would. Um, but my thinking is typically this. So like if you had King 9 suited here of like spades or diamonds, I would usually just check back. But with King 9 off here and no discernible redraw, I actually tend to lean bet fold in these spots. And the reason I do that is simply just a population observation. Like I just watch a lot of people end up checking back here, and then they just get into a lot of really weird spots later on, right? So like I'm kind of in the camp of like, again, simplifying the game, because this is a very complex game, and when we can make life easier on ourselves and not shave off some years off our life from stress, then I like to do it, right? So this strikes me as a spot where I think I would lean bet fold, because there's not a lot of semi bluffs for him to raise with. Yes, he can have like 3-4 suited, 3-5 suited, Queen Jack suited, Jack 10 suited. Granted, the Queen Jack suited, Jack 10 suited might have even gotten out of line pre. But that's about it for check raise semi bluffs from him, So it's probably going to end up just being like an ace rag a lot more. So yeah, I think I'd lean bet fold here. But if you had King 9 of diamonds or King 9 of spades, I love checking back here. And in general, there's another spot that's very similar to this. I think it is the yeah, and I agree with Fisk. I just don't think he'll mess with you a lot. And honestly, a lot of what it'll come down to is when you bet here, it's weird because they're usually just going to fold with stuff that you were beating anyway, right? But I think there is something to be said for just winning the 6 blinds that's out there and avoiding the variance that happens later. A similar spot to that is when you have kings pre, you open, flop comes ace high, and you still see bet. It's the same thing. It's like you're controlling the pot and you're making things less complicated than later if you check and then you just have to like call down and guess, right? Another example of this would be if someone has like ace X and they flop bottom pair after raising pre. This is another one that I see people check back a lot with. I don't think that's very effective either. If you have ace X suited, so you have bottom pair plus backdoor redraw, I love the check back. But I think bottom pair in and of itself, no other help, I treat that like my other junk. I'm just going to bet fold with that. The power of the bet at lower stakes, like again, under $55, like I assume most of you guys play 109s and under online for the most part, obviously take shots, etc. The power of betting is astronomical. I think checking leads to confusion, uncertainty, and I think that in often spots you can simplify things by leaning bet in these situations where you are unsure. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is kind of the same thing I was saying, right? Like this is complex. I am now uncertain of what to do on the turn when to me, you can just bet 2.5 blinds on that flop and it's that simple, To me, if he check raises, I'm just kind of done with it, And I think if he calls, I'll probably check back and, we'll obviously have to make a read on the river. I don't know what we'll do on the river. That'll be tough, but either way, it's hard to say what to do here, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think checking here probably makes sense after checking flop, and then we would just call a bet from him on the river. But how much easier would life be if we had just bet 2 blinds on the flop, right?
Yeah. I think it was if it wasn't jack, if it was like 3, 4, 5, 6, I value bet this one, but
yeah, I agree. And if he bet the river, I think you would have to hero call at this point, just because we've taken such an unorthodox passive line.
Interesting, could we value bet here because he would probably bet the queen, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, he could have like a Jack 10 once in a blue moon, or like the weirdest played Ace 3. Like I think you're still ahead now, but I would just be happy to check and win it because I just don't see him calling with worse. It just feels a little greedy, Yeah, Jack 10, exactly. Yeah, it's not surprising. Makes some sense for sure. Although I might have led turn if I was him with the Jack 10, like led small maybe, just because like my thinking would be I don't love check calling and I'm definitely not check folding. So leading
Yeah.
turn might have been decent by him, to be honest.
So do you like to see that here or?
Yeah, I usually just lean c-bet on king high boards. I don't think our hand's that great here, so I'm pretty happy just c-betting, and if he does anything, I would just fold, you know? Yep, this is fine. If anything, I was going to say maybe size it up just like one blind more, just because you don't really want to get check raised, you know? Like you'd rather, like if you can add one blind to your sizing and elicit more folds and elicit less check raises, I think there's something to be said for that, right?
So yeah.
And I would just fold now, but that's one of the issues. If you're not comfortable folding now, then you probably should have bet bigger so he wouldn't check raise as often, you know?
Yeah. I think I folded this one, but I check it out. I used the GTO plus, which is basically like pure solver.
Yeah.
And it tells us to call if we have the diamond. I mean
the 9 of diamonds or the ace?
Yeah, 9 or ace. I think more if we have the ace and also with the 9.
Yeah, and so
like
something
half of the time.
Something I want to specify too. I think this is why, like, I think the idea is that the ace of diamonds would be too good to fold, right? But that's again assuming that this guy has like a lot of bluffs in his check raising range. Like that's the only way this is profitable, right? Remember, a lot of the guys you guys are going to play against, like in a $22 freeze out, aren't going to be bluffing as heavily as some people. You know, that GTO is obviously assuming, right? That are going to have like very heavy bluff ranges, like especially on this board. Like look at this board, the value is minimal and the semi bluffs are everywhere, right? Like there's so many semi bluffs he can have check raising here. So, you know, don't give it to them. Like don't make it easy for them, right? Like if you made it one blind more, it's a lot harder for him to check raise. Now he has to make it like 7.5 to go. You know what I'm saying? So if you can just size it up a tiny bit and make things a little bit more difficult on your opponent, I think it's something definitely to consider.
So do you basically ever use the 25 to 30% c-bet, or what kind of flops would you c-bet?
Yes. Okay, so this sizing right here, what I would do for here would probably be stuff that I was willing to 4-bet jam in this spot, which might be something like ace deuce of diamonds, like ace 5 of diamonds, like 5 6 of diamonds, 6 7 of diamonds, ace 10 of diamonds, ace jack of diamonds, ace queen of diamonds. I'd be comfortable just jamming all of those here. So I'm cool betting small with all those. Same with my sets, which I would just call after he check raised as opposed to jamming. And then I think, you know, there's some that could be even a little wider that I don't mind calling. Things like ace 2 of clubs, ace 5 of clubs, 6 7 of clubs. And then I think there's some hands, are there any that I would just totally bet fold with this sizing? I don't know. Probably not, to be honest. Like I'd probably have like a slightly bigger just total bet fold sizing, maybe closer to like 2.5 blinds, like we were saying, like one blind more. And that sizing will probably also include a lot of things like a king. All my kings will probably be closer to that sizing too. Maybe the middle pairs also might fall in there too, because then they get value. They also protect a little bit, define his range a little bit more. So yeah, I think there's a few ways we can go in this spot. There's just so many hands that we want to play here, so we can really divvy up our range in a number of ways, you know?
Yeah.
It's like rare. Like usually on most boards, there's just not a lot of hands for us to have, but here it's an unusual flop where there's just so much for us to have.
Yeah, also here the size is really, so I think it's
just
not
keep
like a
sizing
bad
that
thing.
you bet too. You know, again, depending on what stakes you're in, if you're up against really tough players, yeah, make sure you're balanced. Think about that stuff. But if you're up against some guy like Billy Bob who's like drooling on his computer, don't worry about being balanced. You know, like do what you think makes sense, and if you can size it up a bit and elicit more folds, and that's good for you, go for it. You know what I'm saying? Really focus on what makes sense at the here and now. I think people get caught up in doing the same thing, being balanced, trying to be like, oh, well, I would do this with aces. Your opponent doesn't know that, and he doesn't care. He's not paying attention half the time. He's watching TV or looking at porn or playing video games. Like, people are just messing around a lot of the time. Like, remember these are all humans that you guys are playing against too. And humans have a lot of weaknesses. Like, not everyone out there are like really tough robots who are playing this game. And if you're up against one of those, act accordingly, you know? But I think it's important to, I don't know, I wouldn't give people the benefit of the doubt until they've proven to you they deserve it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Is this three hand? Is like a, oh, it says it's early. So yeah, it's not a FT. Okay. Sorry,
So
what happened pre-flop there? He opened and we called. Is that right?
Yeah. Not sure if we could also lead this one, but not sure about the size and
I
should
would
we
only
check
lead
raise
here.
and
Yeah, I don't think I like the lead. I like a check raise here, like you were saying. I think it's again unlikely he has those. Like the way the check raise works in this spot so well is that typically if you just make it like 6.2, he just folds all of his overs, and like that's exactly what we want him to fold, right? Like the ace 10, ace jack, ace queen, ace king, etc. And even if he peels, like say he just has like say he actually does have eights through aces, he's probably just going to peel. So we actually get a chance to, nail like a 4. Or if we hit a 5, I'll probably keep semi bluffing too, So yeah, interesting spot. But I'm surprised you actually folded here. Like, because usually I feel like it's me telling you you need to fold. So, but I'm actually surprised you folded there. But I mean, like I said, I think lean check raise there. Like when we're defending with ace 5, that's definitely one of the better outcomes of flops,
Yeah, I think this one's check raise, yeah.
It's just that he has so much of his c-bet range that should just fold there, I think. What do you get? 2 points here? Yeah. Okay, so definitely like call makes sense here. Something I want you guys to keep an eye out for, though. I think we've all. Oh my God, your name's around 2024 on here. Oh
Yep.
boy, that's actually smart. That's a really smart name. I love that. Look at you, dude. You are so metagame. Was your old name? Did we talk about that once too? Like about having the right avatar and stuff for getting action. That's smart. I love it. Listen to this guy, folks. That's next level stuff right there. That's smart.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to that. Something I remember talking about a lot is the population is just, we've gotten to the point where we call a lot in the big blind, and rightfully so. It usually makes sense. People are raising smaller. People are getting better post flop. It makes sense, right? But I also think, when the population all starts to do one thing and everyone's zigging, it's time to start thinking about zagging, right? And I think in the big blind, if everyone's calling too much, that we should consider maybe calling less sometimes and then 3-betting more. So like 3-bet bluffing more and then folding more, right? And the exact hands that I think fit this mold really well that can span, like switch those ranges are ace X off, king X off, and like queen X suited, right? Now here, I definitely just call with them, but I think the times that you can move these hands into your 3-bet bluff range from the big blind, I'm looking for when you have around like 25, 30 blinds yourself, 25 through 35 blinds yourself, and then your opponent has like 45 or 50 blinds plus. So like say right here, you had 33 big blinds, okay? I would not call here. I would 3-bet bluff with this ace 3 off. I would make it like 7.5 blinds to go. I'm using my ace blocker. I know he's stealing a lot on the button, and I believe the gap between his opening range and the range to continue against me is super wide. So I want to exploit the hell out of that, basically. However, with these stack sizes, I hate that play because I think he's going to call a lot because we have a lot of chips now. Because we got a lot of chips, so we look bluffier, and he's got implied odds to call now. But when you're short, you don't look bluffy. You look strong as hell. It's like, why is he putting in a quarter of his stack? Well, he looks really strong, right? So it's a stack size thing for me. When you're really deep, you're going to lean defend. But when you have around that 30 big blinds and your opponent has around 40 to 50, I want you guys to keep an eye out for maybe turning some of these ace X offs or king X offs or queen X suiteds that you guys have been flatting with a lot. And boom, turn it into a 3-bet bluff. See how that helps you. I found that it's been pretty helpful for my game and a lot of my students who've been utilizing it. It's just, it's another way of avoiding an awkward post-flop spot because it's really hard to play ace-x off post-flop out of position anyway. And you're utilizing the blocker, and you're exploiting the fact that we know there's a huge gap between this guy's opening range and his calling range, essentially. So, yeah, keep an eye out for those spots. I think they can be pretty interesting. Good spot for us when we're shorter stacked and can look really strong.
Yeah, I think we can use the crappy aces like ace 2, ace 3, ace 4. then maybe some king 5, king 6.
Yep. And it's all about
But
stack
then,
size.
yeah,
We're trying to manipulate our stack size to make sure your opponent is smart enough to know what we're doing. If your opponent's an idiot, then this isn't going to work and we're going to look like an idiot, right? So like you need to make sure the opponent can see what we're doing. But if the opponent is smart, which a lot of people raising on the button are, he is going to see what you're doing and he's going to be like, that looks really strong, and it will make him fold more often. And that's what we're trying to do, right?
yeah. But if you're like 30 to 35, then don't fold if you hit the top pair.
Yes.
Just can't fold anymore.
Yes. That is very true. Yeah. And I think that's a good rule of thumb. Like if I'm ever in a 3-bet pot and I hit top pair under 30 blinds, I'm not folding. I am going into the mode of let's give him as much rope to make this mistakes. Wow. I'm surprised.
I think that's my probably sit out or something. I mean, some time out. Or that's typically when I stream, that happens quite a lot. But
yeah, I feel yeah, definitely.
But yeah, this one, interesting spot because I think we can call or 3-bet here.
Yeah.
Both are okay.
Ooh, tell it.
Now this is the spot.
Oh, I was hoping we were 5 blinds less and it would be perfect, right? I mean, I still might do it here, to be honest. You know, like you're on the upper echelon, like at the 37, 38 blind mark, so it's not as great, but it's still, and he's a little lower, but like, so if you had like 5 blinds less and he had 5 blinds more, it would be perfect. It would be like exactly what we were just talking about, right? Having said that, I might still go for it anyway, because, you know, not to sound like Dr. Seuss, but the way this goes in my head, like I feel like quite simply your hand is too good to fold here, but it's not really good enough to call here. So maybe I want to do something else, you know, and that move would be re-raising as a semi-bluff. So yeah, I kind of dig just making it like 8 blinds to go here as a bluff. And again, I'm always sizing up when I'm out of position with my 3-bet bluffs because I don't want actions, quite simply. You know, it blows me away how often someone will be like, they'll make it like 5.5 blinds here. And I'm like, well, what do you want to happen? They're like, I want him to fold. And I'm like, well, you're going to have to bet a whole lot more if you want him to fold. So yeah, I think 8 blinds here would be I think it would be effective. But like I said, I wish you had a little bit less and he had a little bit more.
I think I usually, these kind of stack size, I like the king X offsuited I like to use.
Yes.
Or even the suited, but yeah, I think you can also start to use
I think the ace X off, king X off, like queen 3 through queen 5 or queen 2 through queen 5 suited, I think they'd all be fine here. I think to me, it's less about your cards and it's more about how often he's stealing on the button and how seldom he is defending and continuing against our 3-bet. That to me is the essence of this hand, right? And the fact that we have the ace high, the king high, the queen high, all of those just add to the fact that he is less likely to have, you know, a tier 1 hand that can go against us, right? Because we're blocking.
I guess you want the blocker here also, the ace of king. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got it.
But this one went to the flop, I remember this one.
Yeah, and I think this is the thing too, because it often does, and this is gonna be tough. You know, like it's never gonna be easy post flop in these spots, and if I can end it pre flop a lot of times in those situations, to me it's like a huge victory. You know, so. But yeah, I get it. I think this is what I was talking about. I think people call here most of the time, but like I said, it's difficult. You know, I'd probably check call flop here.
Oh, I went to check raise. I don't think the check call is either bad. I put this one also, not Pioso, but I used the GTO plus, but over there he likes to, well, it's a program, but they like to check call like ace 5, ace 6, ace 7, ace 8, and also calls ace 2, but they also raise this one, ace 2, ace 3.
I dig it. What do they do with ace 2 suited, like if we had ace 2 backdoor flush draw?
Let's see, I'm not sure if I have the hand here. Yep. Oh yeah, it's because I have the software open, I can't use this one. Maybe I'll just quickly close I think it's the Poker Stars that doesn't.
Every time, yeah. It's funny, even when I play Poker Stars home games with a bunch of students, and when I pull it up, it always like gives me this thing when Equilab is up, and I think my computer's gonna like blow up or something.
Yeah, sometimes it will like.
Like that.
So yeah, basically, see when he bets the 136 something like that. Yeah. So awesome. This one, sometimes ace 3, sometimes ace 2, ace 4 always almost.
And where's the suited ace X's? So those are all.
Yeah, it's like mixing.
Interesting.
Because I remember, was it some coaching I took or something? I just remember that's why I took this one, because I remember that someone told that the crappy aces, you can check raise on the paired boards. Because you still have a probability you might have the aces good, but yeah. I don't know how people would play this, but I think I will mix this like the GTO. I don't like to raise it always, but yeah, not sure how other people would play it, but it's quite interesting how much you can. Oops. Did we lose? Oh, we need to call. Oh, now I can hear you.
Sorry, oh, there we go. Now I hear you. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh. Now I hear you. Perfect. Okay, I didn't hear you for a second there.
Yeah, so this one I think I also like to mix.
Yeah, I know. Honestly,
hope,
you're probably right that this would probably be better suited as a check raise than a call, like I initially said. I think I actually like your line better because, again, I just think it strikes me as a spot where someone is just c-betting very widely, and as they should probably here. And, you know, you could have a jack, right? I would say generally, I think the population, when they hit trips, especially on boards like this, they tend to smooth call, right? So you use that to your benefit in one way or another. But even with that, even having said that, I think that he's going to have so much of his range that it's just going to fold when you do this, you know? So I've like ace-10 offsuit for him. I imagine he's just going to muck it, right? So yeah, I dig this. I think it should be quite effective.
Yeah, let's see what the ace-6, ace-7 suited likes to call. Then ace-6 up likes to just call. But yeah, the smaller aces likes to mix. Not sure what.
I dig it. That's cool.
To call. He folded.
Nice. Desired result.
Yep. So yeah, check this calls. One. I'm not sure. Should we raise this one also?
Yeah, I would typically lean towards just calling here. I mean, I think if you raise and he calls, we are in a really, really weird spot, right? Like, unless, I mean, we hit like a 6 or a 9 or a 10, I guess, right?
Yeah. Because in my head, I always, not sure again where I heard it or saw it or something, that if you have like queen, let's say queen 2, queen 3, queen 4, then you check call. But like the higher ones, you like to make almost every time check raise.
Yeah, my thinking would be this, though. Like, I feel like if you check raised here with this hand, he's just going to fold when you're winning, and then he's just going to call when we're either beat or he has a draw, right? And the problem with that is that a lot of his draws seem to center around that 9 card, right? So, like, any card on the turn that would benefit us, whether it's a 6, 9, or 10, it's probably going to benefit his straight draws as well if our queen isn't already beat in the first place, right? So yeah. I don't think I like check raising here just kind of for that whole idea, you know, like, and I think our hand is good enough where I don't need to just win the pot now. Like, for instance, say the board's like 8-7 deuce and you have like queen 8, you know what I'm saying? I don't mind just winning the pot then because there's a lot of really bad turns for us, right? But I don't think, like, I feel comfortable check calling here. I'm not too worried about that many turns, so I think you can lean towards that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I dig it. It's not one of the best turns, but it's okay. Huh.
Can't fault.
What'd you say?
Can't fault this one.
Yeah, no, you cannot fold. You're right. I'm just trying to kind of figure out what he has here, you know? So, like, the bigger bet obviously could feel a lot like, you know, he's just protecting his value range of aces, kings, ace, queen, king, queen. Also think there's some cards maybe that you could barrel here like ace, king, ace 10, right? Maybe jack 10, you know? So you're right. You definitely can't fold here, but this is weird. You know, I'm just trying to figure out, I'm not sure exactly what his range looks like, which is kind of sticky. Because here, damn it, I was just going to say, what would you do if the river is a red deuce? I was close, but so yeah. So if that's this card, I'm guessing we're just check calling, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because then you got to pick, then you allow him to bluff if he has something like ace 10 still. So you got to keep those bluffs in there.
Yeah,
I thought for sure. Nice, it was ace king. I thought for sure he was going to just like overbet all in right when we checked there.
Yeah, I wonder if he would have. I don't think he would have bluffs there if he
I mean, on the
overbets this
river,
one.
like, say he had like ace 10 of spades, you know, I could see him unloading the clip.
Yeah.
Like, because there's so much junk that you have that's exactly this: Jack 10, Queen 10, Queen 9. You know, like, I feel like we have a lot of like so-so type hands. So, like, it wouldn't be unreasonable for him to try to bluff us there.
Let's see what's this stack size. Yeah, not sure this one should be just 3-bet because I guess we.
Yeah, I would typically lean call here just because, like, but at the same time, I think it's okay to 3-bet here when you're this deep because he shouldn't really be 4-betting you very often. And instead, what he'll be doing is calling you with worse. So, like, in general, I would say to the viewers, usually when you guys have ace jack suited, you're going to lean call because seeing the flop is where you realize your equity. It's important to see that flop. But in this spot, I love PD's 3-bet here because I don't think we have to worry about getting 4-bet a lot. And I think, in fact, what's going to happen is he's just going to call with worse, you know, Jack 10 suited, Queen Jack suited, King Jack suited, like King Jack off, Ace 10 off. Like, I mean, the gamut. So much worse stuff he can call with. So, again, in general, I want to see you guys flat with Ace Jack suited to see that flop. But I love PD's 3-bet here. It makes so much sense. And I feel like that's why you just have to kind of logically work through each hand as its own entity, you know, because each hand deserves something different. And here, in general, like, he's not going to 4-bet that often, right? So we don't have to worry about
Yeah.
that. But think of all of the worst hands he, like, even ace 7 suited, like, you know, like, there's just so many hands you're dominating that he will feel obligated to call with. So I love this 3-bet.
Yeah, I would definitely only call if the player 1 would open. I don't.
Yeah, love it.
Even in 6 max. But if it's under the gun, but I'm a quite bad player with the 100 big blinds, so I'm not sure. That's why I have this hand here, because
It's cool.
I.
And don't, you know, it's okay. Most of tournaments, to be honest, are played around 30 big blinds. Like, that to me is the key. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is what you need to be really good at. Like, that's where, like, and that's why cash game guys struggle when they get into tournaments too. They crush when they're deep, and then they get down to that 30 big blinds and they're like a fish out of water, you know? So
Yeah.
that's where most of tournaments are played. Don't be hard on yourself about the super deep stacked stuff, you know? And I think you play it pretty well still. Yeah, obviously not the best flop for us, but I think we still have to go ahead and c-bet here.
Yeah, this one I bet small. I think that's a mistake. I think we need to bet bigger here.
Yeah, it's interesting, you know. I'm with you. I think typically I do err towards bigger anyway, but not a ton bigger. You maybe like 7 blinds, I think. Like, you don't want to make it too big because it's important that we leave ourselves some flexibility if the turn is a heart or an ace or a jack, I think. You know, sometimes I go bigger when it's like just one bullet and I'm out and I'm done, you know.
Yeah, actually,
Especially
because
against
I'm not sure.
these
Because
blinds.
I usually when I 3-bet, because I play most of my tournaments, I'm under 50 big blinds. So then it's easier to put the small one because people do fold more. But here, when we
Yeah.
have so much behind, I'm not sure if he's folding anything, and we don't have the
Yes.
position. So
Exactly, and that's the thing. Like, technically, like in theory, we don't even really want him to float us with king queen. Like, say he has king queen of clubs and calls here. Yeah, we're beating that hand significantly. But what'll end up happening a lot is he's going to take the pot off of us somehow later, right?
yeah,
So I think you kind of want more folds here. I'm with you. I think a slightly bigger sizing would make sense. Yeah. This
so
is
yeah,
one
I
I
think
would consult the HUD for, I think. Like, a part of me almost just wants to jam pre-flop here. Like, I don't think you're going to run into a lot of really profitable post-flop spots here. Ace 8 suited, I'd call. But ace 8 off, I think I just ship it here.
yeah, I think that's you probably wanna call the worst aces like ace 2, ace 3 off.
Yeah. You might even let me ask you this. What do you think the worst, and then we can figure out from here. What do you think the worst pair he would call our jam with here is? If you jam, what's the worst pair he calls with?
You mean pair?
Pocket pair.
Oh, I don't think he would fold that much.
So,
Maybe
like,
fours
four,
at least.
fives. Okay, yeah. So that's what I was gonna say. Let's just say we said it was fives. But you're right, fours or fives. Then I'm with you. I think ace 2, ace 3, ace 4, ace 5, maybe just call and not shove. But a6, a7, I'm cool jamming those, because the 4s and 5s are suddenly calling too, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I dig that. I think that's a good differentiator there. And again, that's a good example of thinking of your rejam range through the lens of their calling range. I love that.
Let's see what the chart says about this one.
And to me, it's just tough to play ace-8 off post-flop with 25 blinds. It just sucks, But if you had ace-8 suited and you were going to flop a flush draw 1 in 10 times, knowing that extra 10% of the time you can check shove on the flop against his c-bet, I think that makes it good enough to call, though.
Yeah, here at the 25 big blinds, the BBC charts say that you have to shove ace-4, ace-5, ace-6, ace-8 until ace-queen.
Yeah, I dig it.
Then all the pairs up until jacks. Those
Yeah,
you
I think
just
that's fair.
3-bet. Yeah. King 7,
Yeah, and I
king
kind of
6.
like, and I really like, I'm actually impressed that they have 10s as still a shove there, and they're correct. I think a lot of people mistakenly want to get cute and like 3-bet 10s here, and I just think that's a bad idea for a lot of reasons. I think A, if he
Yeah.
flatted you, nightmare. B, if he shoves king jack suited, nightmare, so yeah, I think they're spot on with that. I like it. And clearly they like the ace-4, ace-5 shoves too, which makes some sense,
Yeah.
So yeah, I dig it. Let her
I
rip.
think we went, all in.
I love it. Love it. Good shove. And the only reason I think this is even close is because of the button stack, right? The bigger the button stack gets, the easier this jam should even be for us too. So yeah, excellent shove. I love it.
Yeah, it would be kind of weird if he would be like 14, 15 big blind, but I guess still
Exactly. Yes. Well said. And that's a very good point that PD just made for the chat there. If he had 14 or 15 blinds, I might suddenly just make a hero fold now, right? But again, you have to pay attention to the guy, because if the guy is getting sneaky and trying to steal from us, then we can't fold. But a lot of times when a person opens off 15 blinds or less, it's because they're abnormally strong. So keep an eye out for that. Usually the shorter someone is when they're opening, the stronger they are. And usually the bigger their stack is when they're opening, the wider they are.
It's quite interesting when you check how would you play with the chart against. You would call, if it's 15 big blinds, the button is open. You would call ace-9 suited, ace-8, ace-7, all the.
Well, it's interesting
Also, king-queen suited,
level,
yeah.
Right now, you're almost getting a price against, like, we can give him like a really tight value range of like 8s plus, ace-jack plus. So then suddenly we can probably peel with some of those hands, like you just said, because they actually still have equity against his like kings, queens, jacks, 10s, etc.
And you call on. You would shove 7s to queens. 6s you want to call. Then you shove 2s to 5. So I don't think that matters. 6s can shove also.
Oh yeah. It's really the same, yeah.
Kings and aces just call.
Yeah, I love that. And I'd say in general too, a lot of times when I do have aces and kings from the big blind, I end up flatting those a lot just in general from raises all throughout the table, because I find that when you 3-bet from the big blind, unless it's against the button or the small blind, you look pretty damn strong. So I typically don't 3-bet with my aces from the big blind that often, unless it's against the button or someone who you have a lot of history with. So just, be careful. Don't lose action when you get aces. You're not going to get them that often. So try to get as much money from them as you can,
Yeah, I think that was the last hand, so it was quite well in the 1 hour.
Yeah, awesome. That was good. Perfect timing. Nice. That was a lot of fun, man. It was good. It was good catching up with you, and this was awesome. I hope the guys got some good fun nuggets out of this. There was